Before the world told you to be realistic, you already knew you were meant for more. You felt it in the quiet hours when the house was asleep and your mind would not stop reaching for something it could not yet name. You felt it in the gap between the version of you that shows up every day and the version of you that lives somewhere just out of reach, fully formed, fully capable, already living the life you keep postponing. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to chase the income first. Get the job, get the raise, get the number in the bank account high enough, and then, only then, you would finally feel like the person you were always meant to be. So you chased it. You worked the hours. You said yes to things that drained you and no to things that might have saved you, and still the feeling did not arrive. The income moved. The identity did not. This is not a list of tips. This is not a hustle script designed to squeeze 10 more minutes of productivity out of your day. This is an audio resource built for something deeper, a slow, deliberate reconstruction of the self that earns. Because here is the truth almost no one says out loud. Income is not the source of identity. Identity is the source of income. You do not become successful and then start thinking like a successful person. You start thinking like one, and the success follows, often quietly, often late, but always as a consequence rather than a cause. Tonight, we are not going to talk about strategies for making more money. We are going to talk about the person you have to become before the money means anything at all. Because a man who becomes wealthy without becoming whole simply becomes a wealthier version of his old confusion. And a man who builds his identity first, brick by brick, in private, before anyone is watching, builds something that no market crash, no layoff, no bad year can ever take from him. So settle in. Let go of the urge to take notes, to extract a quick takeaway, to rush this into something you can use tomorrow morning. Some things cannot be used. They can only be absorbed. Let this be one of those things. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from chasing income directly for years without addressing the identity underneath it. It is not the exhaustion of hard work, which at least carries the satisfaction of visible effort. It is the exhaustion of running on a track that never quite leads anywhere permanent, of celebrating a win only to feel the old uncertainty creep back in within days, as if the success itself were somehow temporary, borrowed, waiting to be reclaimed by circumstance. If you have felt this, you are not imperceptive or ungrateful. You have simply been solving the wrong problem with extraordinary effort, and extraordinary effort applied to the wrong problem produces exactly this kind of hollow, recurring exhaustion. This has been written for the part of you that has been waiting patiently for someone to finally name what you already suspected. This is the identity before the income. Chapter 1, The Lie of the Reversed Order. Chapter 2, Who You Practice Being. Chapter 3, The Evidence You Refuse to Collect. Chapter 4, The Room Where No One Is Watching. Chapter 5, The Income That Was Always Waiting. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The lie of the reversed order there is a lie so deeply embedded in modern life that most people never think to question it. It sounds reasonable, it sounds like common sense. It says, get the result, then become the person who deserves it. Get the promotion, then start acting like a leader. Get the business to scale, then start thinking like an owner. Get the money, then start carrying yourself like someone who has it. This is the reversed order, and it is the quiet reason so many capable people spend years working hard and feeling, despite their effort, exactly as uncertain as they did on day one. Jim Rohn spent decades studying why some people, given the same opportunities as everyone around them, built lives of extraordinary substance while others, equally talented, stayed exactly where they started. His conclusion was not about luck, and it was not about timing. It was about what he called the person you become. Rohn would tell rooms full of ambitious strangers a simple, almost uncomfortable truth: success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Read that again slowly, because it dismantles almost everything you have been taught about achievement. If success were simply about pursuit, the hardest workers would always win. But you already know that is not true. You have seen people who work 80-hour weeks and stay stuck for a decade. You have seen people who seem to move through life with a kind of effortless gravity, where opportunities arrive almost on schedule, where the right person appears at the right moment, where doors that should have taken years to open simply swing open in front of them. It is not because the universe favors them. It is because they built an identity that the world recognizes and responds to long before the world had any reason to. Here is the uncomfortable part. If you have been chasing income, chasing the next level, chasing the version of life where everything finally clicks into place, and it has not arrived, the problem is rarely your effort. The problem is the order. You have been trying to build a house by starting with the roof, hoping the walls and the foundation will somehow appear beneath it because you wanted them badly enough. Think about every area of your life where you feel stuck. Not vaguely uncomfortable, actually stuck, in the way that makes you avoid thinking about it directly. Is it your career, where you keep waiting for someone else to recognize a value you have not yet fully claimed for yourself? Is it your finances, where you keep waiting to feel secure enough to make the decisions that would create real security? Is it your relationships, where you keep waiting to feel worthy of the kind of connection you actually want? In every one of these cases, you are waiting for evidence before you are willing to change. But identity does not work that way. Identity is not built from evidence collected after the fact. Identity is the decision you make before the evidence exists, and then it is the discipline of acting from that decision day after day until the evidence has no choice but to catch up. This is what Earl Nightingale meant when he described success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Notice the word progressive, not sudden, not granted. Progressive meaning it unfolds in layers, through repetition, through the compounding effect of 1,000 small choices made by a person who has already decided internally who they are going to be. Nightingale was not describing a technique. He was describing an internal posture, a private agreement you make with yourself that no one else needs to witness or approve. Most people get this backwards because the world rewards visible results and ignores invisible decisions. No one applauds you for the moment you privately decided to stop being someone who quits when things get difficult. No one notices the exact second you chose to see yourself as disciplined instead of someone who is merely trying to be disciplined. These decisions happen in silence, but silence is where identity is actually built. The applause, if it ever comes much later, and by then the identity is already so solid that the applause barely registers as necessary. So ask yourself, honestly, without performing the answer for anyone. Are you waiting for your life to give you permission to become who you already suspect you are? Or are you willing to claim that identity now in advance before a single piece of outside evidence confirms it? This is the first and hardest shift. Not a strategy, not a 5-step plan. A reversal of the order you have unconsciously accepted your entire life. Income does not create identity. Identity, claimed first and lived with consistency, creates the conditions where income becomes almost inevitable. You do not need more information to begin this. You need a decision. And decisions, unlike results, are available to you right now, in this exact moment, regardless of your bank account, your job title, or how far behind you feel. The lie of the reversed order has kept you waiting for a future version of yourself to show up and rescue the present one. Tonight, we begin dismantling that lie, one layer at a time. Consider how this plays out in something as ordinary as a job search. A person tells themselves they will start applying with confidence once they land an interview that goes well. But confidence built on a single external outcome is fragile by design, because it depends entirely on circumstances outside your control. The interview either goes well or it does not. And either way, the underlying identity remains untouched. Compare this to a person who decides before any interview is scheduled that they are someone who communicates with clarity and value, regardless of outcome. That decision does not wait for permission. It walks into the room first, and more often than not, it is precisely what tips the outcome in their favor. The same pattern repeats in business, in creative work, in every arena where people quietly hope that external proof will arrive before they are required to commit internally. A founder waits to feel like a real entrepreneur until the revenue crosses some arbitrary threshold, but the decisions that produce that revenue were always going to require the entrepreneurial identity first. A writer waits to call themselves a writer until they are published. But publication is the result of years of writing, which itself required claiming the identity long before any external validation arrived to confirm it. This is not a minor reframe. It is the difference between a life spent waiting for evidence and a life spent generating it. And once you see the reversed order clearly, you cannot unsee it. You begin noticing it everywhere, in your own hesitations, in the way you qualify your ambitions with phrases like, once I have more experience, once things settle down, once I feel ready. Readiness, as it turns out, is rarely a feeling that arrives on schedule. It is a byproduct of having already started, of having already claimed the identity the readiness was supposed to confirm. So the question is not whether you have enough evidence yet to believe in the person you want to become. The question is whether you are willing to act as that person before the evidence exists. Trusting that the evidence is not a prerequisite for the identity, but a consequence of it. Chapter 2. Who you practice being identity is not a fixed trait you either have or do not have. It is a practiced behavior, repeated so consistently that it eventually stops feeling like practice and starts feeling like nature. This is one of the most liberating truths in human psychology, and it is also one of the most demanding, because it means the responsibility for who you become rests entirely, uncomfortably, in your own hands. Carol Dweck's research into what she termed the growth mindset revealed something that should reshape how you think about every struggle you have ever had. People who believe their abilities are fixed, that they are simply not a disciplined person, not a confident person, not a person capable of building wealth or leading others, tend to avoid the very challenges that would prove otherwise. They protect a fragile self-image instead of expanding it. But people who understand that ability is built through effort, through repeated attempts, through what Dweck calls a process orientation rather than a results orientation, approach the exact same obstacles with a completely different internal posture. They are not trying to prove they are already capable. They are practicing becoming capable, one rep at a time. This distinction matters more than almost anything else in this chapter, so let it settle. You are not failing because you lack some innate quality that successful people were simply born with. You are failing, if you are failing, because you have been treating identity as something to discover rather than something to construct. And construction requires repetition. Think about the version of yourself you most want to become. Not the vague fantasy version with the perfect schedule and the effortless confidence, but the real, specific version, the person who follows through on commitments even when no one is checking, who speaks with calm authority instead of apologizing for taking up space, who makes decisions from a place of clarity instead of fear. That version of you is not waiting somewhere in the future for circumstances to deliver them. That version of you is built today through what you practice being in small, often invisible moments. Here is where most people quietly sabotage themselves without realizing it. They wait for a feeling of readiness before they act like the person they want to become. They think confidence comes first, and then confident action follows. But the research and the lived experience of nearly everyone who has built something meaningful says the opposite. Action comes first. The feeling follows the behavior, not the other way around. This is why James Clear, in his extensive work on behavior change, places so much emphasis not on goals but on systems specifically, on what he calls identity-based habits. Clear argues that the most effective way to change your behavior is not to focus on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. He gives a simple but profound example. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. Every time you complete a small action aligned with that identity, you cast a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. Every time you skip it, you cast a vote in the opposite direction. Think about how many votes you have cast over the years without realizing what you were doing. Every time you told yourself you were not a disciplined person and then acted accordingly, you reinforced that identity. Every time you said you were bad with money and then made a decision that confirmed it, you cast another vote. This is not about blame. Most people have no idea this process is even happening. They think their identity is simply who they are, a fixed report card handed to them by their past. But identity is a live election, held daily. And you are the only one voting. This means the income you are waiting for is downstream of an identity you have not yet fully voted into existence. You cannot out-earn an identity that secretly believes it does not deserve the result. You cannot out-hustle a self-image that has not yet decided it belongs in the room it keeps trying to enter. The work, then, is not primarily external. It is internal. And it is built through the accumulation of small, consistent actions that align with the person you have decided to become, regardless of how unfamiliar that person feels at first. It helps to understand why small actions carry such disproportionate weight in this process. A single large achievement, however impressive, is easy for the mind to dismiss as an outlier, a fluke, a result of unusual circumstances that may never repeat. But a small action, repeated daily across weeks and months, cannot be dismissed in the same way. It accumulates into a pattern, and patterns are precisely what the mind uses to construct identity. This is why someone who writes 3 honest sentences every single day for a year often develops a stronger identity as a writer than someone who produced 1 brilliant piece and then stopped. The brilliance was an event, the daily practice was a pattern, and patterns are what identity is actually made of. This is uncomfortable, because it means the excuse of circumstance loses much of its power. You cannot say you will become disciplined once your schedule clears up, because the discipline is not waiting for the schedule. It is built inside the schedule you already have, however imperfect, through the choices you make today. You cannot say you will become confident once you achieve something worth being confident about, because confidence is not a reward for achievement. It is a muscle, built through the repeated practice of acting with conviction even when the outcome is uncertain. So consider this question and let it sit with you longer than feels comfortable. What is the identity you keep waiting for permission to claim? And what would it look like to practice being that person today? Not as a performance for anyone else, but as a private vote cast in your own favor? You will not become this new identity in a single dramatic moment. There is no ceremony, no announcement, no instant transformation. There is only the next small action, aligned with who you have decided to be, repeated until it no longer feels like practice. This is how identity is actually built. Not discovered, not granted, practiced quietly until it becomes who you simply are. There is a reason this practice feels uncomfortable at first, almost like wearing a coat that does not yet fit. The discomfort is not a sign that you are pretending or that the identity is false. It is simply the friction of growth, the natural resistance that occurs whenever the self stretches beyond its previous shape. Athletes feel this resistance in their muscles when they train beyond their current capacity. Musicians feel it in their hands when they attempt a passage just beyond their current skill. The discomfort is not evidence against the identity. It is evidence that the identity is actually expanding rather than remaining safely, comfortably static. Most people abandon the new identity at precisely this point, mistaking the discomfort of growth for proof that the identity does not belong to them. They return to the familiar version of themselves, not because it serves them better, but because it requires no friction to maintain. This is the quiet tragedy behind so many unfulfilled potentials. Not a lack of ability. A retreat from the discomfort that always accompanies becoming someone new. If you want to build an identity strong enough to carry real income, real opportunity, and real consequence, you have to be willing to sit inside that discomfort longer than feels natural. Not recklessly, not without rest, but persistently, the way a sculptor returns to the same block of stone day after day, removing a little more each time. Trusting that the final shape exists already within the material, waiting only to be revealed through repeated, deliberate effort. Chapter 3. The evidence you refuse to collect here is something almost no one tells you about self-belief. It is not built through affirmation. It is built through evidence. And most people, without realizing it, are sitting on mountains of evidence they refuse to acknowledge, while obsessing over the evidence they lack. The mind is, in many ways, a courtroom. It is constantly building a case for or against the identity you claim to hold. If you say you are someone who follows through, but you cannot recall a single recent instance where you actually did, the mind will quietly rule against you, regardless of how many times you repeat the affirmation in the mirror. Affirmations without evidence are simply wishes dressed up as statements. They do not hold up under cross-examination, especially not the cross-examination that happens at 2 in the morning, when the noise of the day has faded and your own doubts get a chance to speak. This is why so many people feel like frauds even as they make outward progress. They have not built an internal case strong enough to support the identity they are presenting to the world. The gap between the external image and the internal evidence creates a quiet, constant tension of feeling that at any moment someone might discover the truth. That underneath the performance, you do not yet believe it yourself. The solution is not louder affirmations. The solution is deliberate evidence collection. This means paying close, intentional attention to the moments where you actually did act like the person you are trying to become, no matter how small those moments seem. You woke up when you said you would, even though it was difficult. You held your tongue in a conversation where reacting would have felt easier. You finished something you wanted to abandon halfway through. These are not minor footnotes to your life. These are the actual building blocks of identity, and most people walk past them without registering their significance because they have been conditioned to only count the big, visible wins. Earl Nightingale often spoke about how the mind moves toward what it focuses on, almost without exception. If you focus exclusively on your failures, your inconsistencies, the days you did not show up for yourself, you build a mental case that confirms exactly the identity you do not want. But if you deliberately, consciously begin collecting evidence of the moments where you did show up, even imperfectly, you begin building a different case, entirely one that over time becomes difficult for your own doubts to argue against. This is not about ignoring your shortcomings or pretending you are further along than you are. It is about refusing to let your failures be the only evidence admitted into the trial. Every person who has built something significant has a long list of inconsistencies, of days they did not show up, of moments they fell short of their own standard. The difference is not the absence of failure. The difference is what they chose to weigh more heavily, the failure, or the evidence that they kept returning, kept trying, kept choosing the identity even after falling short of it. Consider for a moment how you currently speak to yourself about your own history. Do you describe yourself as someone who is bad with discipline, citing the days you broke your own commitments as proof? Or do you describe yourself as someone who is becoming disciplined, citing the days you kept your word, however few they may currently be, as the foundation you are building on? Both descriptions can be technically accurate. Only one of them builds an identity capable of carrying you forward. This is where many people unintentionally sabotage their own growth. They wait until the evidence is overwhelming before they will allow themselves to believe in the new identity. They want a perfect track record before they will call themselves disciplined, a flawless year before they will call themselves financially responsible. an unbroken streak before they will call themselves someone who follows through. But identity does not require a perfect case. It requires a majority case, weighted not by quantity, but by intention, the deliberate decision to count the moments that align with who you are becoming, and to treat the moments that do not as data, not verdicts tonight. Before you fall asleep, consider beginning a quiet, private practice. At the end of each day, recall one moment, however small, where you acted in alignment with the identity you are building. Not a grand accomplishment, a single moment of evidence. Over time, this practice does something affirmations alone cannot do. It builds a case your own mind cannot easily dismiss, because it is built not from hope, but from memory of things that actually happened. The income, the recognition, the external proof you have been waiting for these things arrive far more readily once the internal case has already been built. Because people, whether they realize it or not, can sense the difference between someone performing confidence and someone who has quietly, privately, proven it to themselves first. There is something else worth understanding about this courtroom of the mind. The verdicts it reaches are rarely permanent. They can be appealed, reopened, and overturned with new evidence, no matter how long the original ruling has stood. This means that even a lifetime of evidence pointing toward inconsistency or self-doubt does not condemn you to that identity forever. It simply means the case has been one-sided for a long time, because only one side has been actively presenting evidence. The moment you begin deliberately introducing evidence for the identity you are building, the case begins to shift, slowly at first, and then with increasing momentum, because the mind, much like any honest court, eventually follows the weight of the evidence rather than the habit of the previous ruling. This is why early progress often feels disproportionately difficult. You are not simply building new habits. You are actively overturning a long-standing verdict, and old verdicts do not surrender easily. They resurface in moments of stress, in moments of fatigue, whispering the old conclusion as though it were still the only valid one. Expect this resistance. It is not a sign of failure. It is the sound of an old identity refusing to go quietly, even as the new evidence continues patiently to outweigh it. Chapter 4. The room where no one is watching there is a version of you that only exists in private. Not the version that shows up to meetings, that posts updates, that performs competence for an audience. The version that exists in the room where no one is watching when you choose, alone, whether to follow through or to let it slide. When there is no one to disappoint but yourself, and no one to impress but your own internal standard. This private room is where real identity is forged, and it is also the room most people avoid examining too closely, because the truth found there can be uncomfortable. What do you actually do when no one would know either way? Do you finish the work you said you would finish, or do you quietly lower the bar because the deadline is self-imposed? Do you keep the promise you made to yourself about how you would spend your morning, or does it dissolve the moment external pressure is absent? This matters more than almost anything else discussed in this script, because the identity you carry into the visible world is, almost without exception, a reflection of the identity you have already built in private. You cannot perform your way into becoming a person of integrity in public while consistently betraying your own standards in private. Eventually, and often at the worst possible moment, the private identity surfaces. Because identity does not stay contained. It leaks into everything: your decisions under pressure, your reactions when things do not go as planned, the quality of work you produce when you believe no one is closely checking. Jim Rohn often spoke about discipline not as an occasional act of willpower, but as a daily standard, maintained regardless of mood, regardless of audience. He understood that the people who built lasting success were not the ones who performed discipline when it was convenient or visible, but the ones who held the same standard whether anyone was watching or not. This consistency, invisible to almost everyone else, is precisely what makes certain people feel, to those around them, almost unshakable. They are not performing stability. They have built it privately over years of choosing the harder, quieter path when the easier one would have gone entirely unnoticed. Consider the implications of this for your own life. If your private standard is significantly lower than your public presentation, you are not building an identity. You are building a costume. And costumes, no matter how convincing, eventually slip. But if your private standard meets or exceeds your public presentation, something different happens. You stop fearing exposure, because there is nothing beneath the surface that contradicts what is shown above it. This is the quiet internal security that no amount of external validation can replicate. This is also where the reversed order from earlier in this script becomes most visible. People waiting for income to arrive before they raise their private standard have it backwards. The private standard is what eventually produces the income, because the world, in subtle and not so subtle ways, can sense the difference between a person who has built genuine consistency and a person who is hoping no one looks too closely. Trust, opportunity, and reputation are rarely built through a single visible moment. They are built through the accumulation of private moments no one directly witnessed, but whose effects eventually become impossible to ignore. Ask yourself, honestly, what your private room actually looks like right now. Not the room you wish you had, but the one you actually inhabit when no external pressure is forcing your hand. Are you the same person there that you present to the world? Or is there a quiet gap, a private inconsistency that you have been hoping never gets discovered? Closing that gap is not glamorous work. No one will applaud you for the morning you woke up on time with no one to witness it, for the project you finished with full effort despite knowing it would go largely unnoticed, for the difficult conversation you handled with integrity even though avoiding it would have been easier and equally invisible. But this is precisely the work that builds an identity strong enough to hold the success you are working toward. Because eventually, success places you in rooms with greater visibility, greater stakes, and greater pressure. And in those rooms, the private standard you have spent years quietly building becomes the only thing standing between composure and collapse. The income you are seeking is not waiting on the other side of a single breakthrough moment. It is waiting on the other side of a private identity solid enough to carry the weight of that breakthrough once it arrives. Build the room where no one is watching first. Everything visible follows from what happens there. It is worth being specific about what this private standard actually looks like in practice, because abstraction is easy to agree with and hard to apply. It looks like finishing the workout even when no one will ever know you skipped it. It looks like telling yourself the truth about a decision instead of the version that is easier to live with. It looks like doing the unglamorous, unseen preparation for a meeting that could have been faked with confidence alone. None of these moments will ever appear on a Ursum or a highlight reel, and yet, collectively, they form the entire architecture of the identity that eventually does appear there, in the form of opportunities that seem to arrive with unusual ease, relationships that seem to deepen with unusual trust, and a kind of personal stability that other people notice without being able to fully explain. This is also why comparison, so often a source of quiet suffering, becomes far less corrosive once you understand the private room. You are not in competition with anyone else's visible results, because you have no access to their private room and therefore no real basis for comparison at all. You only have access to your own. The only meaningful comparison left is between the private standard you held yesterday and the one you are holding today. This is a far healthier game to play, and it is the only one that actually builds something lasting. Chapter 5. The income that was always waiting there is a particular kind of relief that comes when you finally stop chasing income directly and start building the identity capable of attracting it. It does not happen instantly, and it does not happen without effort, but it happens with a different quality of effort, less desperate, less anxious, more grounded in the quiet confidence of someone who understands they are building something that cannot be taken from them by a single bad year or a single closed door. This is the final, and perhaps most important, shift in this entire script. Income, recognition, and opportunity are not random rewards distributed to the people who want them most desperately. They are, more often than not, the natural consequence of an identity that has become consistent enough, disciplined enough, and clear enough to be trusted by other people, by markets, and frankly, by yourself. The world does not reward potential. It rewards demonstrated identity, repeated until it becomes undeniable. Think back to everything explored in this audiobook so far. The reversed order, where so many people wait for results before they will allow themselves to become the person who deserves them. The practiced identity, built not through discovery, but through deliberate, repeated action that casts daily votes for who you are becoming, the evidence you refuse to collect, the quiet proof sitting in your own history that your mind has been too distracted by failure to properly register, and the room where no one is watching, the private standard that ultimately determines whether your public success has real structural integrity or simply the appearance of it. Each of these is a piece of the same larger truth. Income was never the starting point. It was always the byproduct, the natural result of a person who became, through patient and often invisible effort, someone capable of holding what they were asking for. You cannot rush this process by working harder at the surface level while neglecting the identity beneath it. You can only walk through it deliberately, one private decision at a time. Earl Nightingale once described how the human mind, left undirected, drifts toward mediocrity, not because people are incapable of more, but because they fail to consciously direct their thinking toward a worthy ideal and hold it steady long enough for their actions to align with it. This is the invitation at the heart of everything you have just listened to, not a demand for more effort. An invitation to direct your identity, deliberately and consciously, toward the person capable of carrying the life you actually want. rather than continuing to wait for that life to somehow arrive and build the person for you. You do not need a single dramatic transformation to begin this. You need the next small private decision made in alignment with who you have decided to become, repeated tomorrow and the day after, until it no longer requires conscious effort. This is how every person who has ever built something lasting actually did it. Not in a single leap, but in the quiet accumulation of identity, vote by vote, day by day, long before the outside world had any reason to notice. The income was never lost. It was never being withheld from you by bad luck or unfair circumstance. It was simply waiting, patiently, for an identity solid enough to receive it and strong enough to hold it once it arrived. That identity is not somewhere out in the future, waiting for the right conditions. It is available to you right now in the next decision you make, the next private moment where you choose, quietly and without an audience, to become who you already suspected you were meant to be. You already knew you were meant for more, long before the world told you to be realistic. That instinct was never wrong. It was simply early, waiting for you to build the identity capable of meeting it. Consider, one final time, the full arc of what you have walked through tonight. You began by confronting an order you had unconsciously accepted your entire life. An order that placed results before identity and kept you waiting for permission that was never going to arrive externally. You moved into the understanding that identity is not discovered but practiced, that every small action is a vote cast for or against the person you are becoming. And that discomfort in this process is not a warning sign, but a sign of genuine growth. You learned to collect evidence deliberately rather than passively absorbing only the evidence that confirmed your doubts, recognizing that the mind operates like a courtroom that follows the weight of presented evidence rather than old, undefended verdicts. And you stepped into the private room where no one is watching, understanding that the standard you hold there, in total anonymity, is the true foundation beneath everything the world eventually sees. None of this requires you to wait for a better moment to begin. The decision is available right now, in whatever ordinary circumstances surround you as you listen to these final words. It does not require a clean slate, a fresh start, or ideal conditions. It only requires the willingness to make the next decision, however small, in alignment with the identity you have decided to claim, and then to make that same decision again tomorrow and the day after, until what once felt like effort becomes simply who you are. This has been the identity before the income. Thank you for spending this time in reflection. If something in this audiobook found you tonight, let it settle, let it work quietly beneath the surface, and return whenever you need to remember that who you become has always come first.